How to model anything in 5 minutes. If you've ever opened up Blender, stared at a blank screen, and had no idea where to start, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you how to model anything using a simple workflow that I use in production and all my personal projects. And yeah, we're going to do this in about 5 minutes. Now, this isn't about speed. This is about removing the confusion of where to start when 3D modeling. What I see all the time, especially with beginners, is they jump straight into details, adding edge loops, bevels, trying to make things look good early on. And the model just falls apart. You end up reworking everything. Now, this isn't a skill issue, it's workflow. So here's the process. Reference, context, primary, secondary, and tertiary forms, blockout, refine, detail, and polish. Once you understand this, you can approach anything. So let's run right through it. First, reference. This doesn't need to be perfect blueprints, just something grounded in reality. Even if you're doing sci-fi or something stylized, it still needs to feel believable. Look at how things are built, how materials are broken up, where edges are sharp versus soft. This stuff translates directly into your 3D modeling. Next, context. This is one of the biggest things people skip. What are you building this for? Is this a real-time game, a cinematic render, animation, or is this a 3D print? Because the decision affects everything downstream. I love seeing posts when people ask, how does my topology look? And people just start answering. How can you answer when you don't know what the context of the model is being used? You don't know things like, how clean does the topology need to even be? How dense does the mesh need to be? Or even the 3D modeling tools that you're using. That could be the same model with a completely different approach depending on where it's going. Now, let's break the model down into layers. Primary forms are your big shapes. Secondary forms support those shapes, and tertiary are your small details. This keeps you organized and focused. If you jump straight into the small details, you're going to keep adjusting and breaking things over and over, and trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Now we block it out. This is the most important step. Think of this as your 3D blueprint. Right now, I'm only focusing on primary forms. No bevels, no small details, just proportions and silhouette. If the proportions are off here, no amount of detail later is going to fix it. Now you can use whatever gets you there fastest. Basic poly modeling, curves or NURBS modeling, sculpting, or even CAD modeling. This is about solving the big picture. Now I start refining, adding in secondary forms, cutting in larger features, adjusting transitions. This is where I start thinking more about topology. Nothing is perfect yet, but I'm setting things up so I'm not fighting it later. I'm still focused on the form here. Now we move into detail. This is where bevels, support edges, and smaller features come in. I always like to think about it as separating form from topology. The first few phases were all about getting the form right. And now that the form and proportions are all good to go, I can focus on topology. Separating those two makes it much easier to model complex objects. And the reason topology matters more here is because it directly affects the shading and how clean things look. This is where the model really starts coming together. And last step, polish and look development. At this point, the model is basically done. Now you're validating it in context. You need to look at it the way it's actually going to be used. You need to check your shading, test materials, do quick render and viewport passes, and look for artifacts or pinching. This is where you catch issues early and refine them before it moves further down the pipeline. You're not just making sure it's done, but you're making sure it actually holds up. That's the workflow I use to approach pretty much any model I'm working on. It doesn't matter what software you're in, this process stays the same. So how do I know this workflow works? Because this is the exact process I've used across AAA production, freelance work, personal projects, and it's always how I've been teaching modeling for over 15 years. I use this same workflow in my online courses, university classes, and mentorships. And these are just a few examples of course members and students from all around the world. Different software, different experience levels, different goals. Same core process. Once you understand workflows instead of just memorizing buttons, modeling starts making a whole lot more sense. If you want to go deeper into this, especially topology and the full production workflow, that's exactly what I break down in my courses and programs. But start here. Get this process down and the modeling starts to make a lot more sense. So let me know what you want to see next, or what part you struggle with the most. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. If you want to learn game art the right way and not just follow random tutorials, I built a full game art program that walks you through the entire pipeline from an idea to a finished portfolio piece. It's split into 2 courses. Modeling and UV mapping foundations is the first one, and texturing, rendering, and presentation is the second. Each has over 40 modules, 15 hours of narrated content, exercises, time lapses, project files. And you're not doing it alone. You get access to a private Discord community where you can ask questions and get feedback along the way. If you want real-world production workflows you can use for both studio work and your personal projects, the program is live now. I'll see you there.